Good afternoon, everybody! Edition of Swishing podcast. Joe and Ed and Joe in the basement. Me and Joe figured out how to get rid of the echo from the previous podcast, so we sat in for 20 minutes figuring this audio mixer out, and we did it. We high-fived.
We're making small strides.
So
day by day.
Very, in this rainy afternoon on, what is today? A Wednesday afternoon. Rangers play the Penguins later in Pittsburgh. Joe, the big Rangers fan's going to the Mets game instead in the rain. It's pouring out. It's thunder and lightning. It's raining cats and dogs.
Yeah, well, hopefully that clears up between now and 7 o'clock tonight.
But before then, we will podcast and talk about loads of things. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, NFL schedules released. The Mets are surging. Yankees quietly won 4 or 5. And our breaking news just now, Scott Brooks, the coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, was fired. A move that some people thought was going to happen. Some people thought that it was crazy if it did. I happen to be in the latter. I think that a guy who's 100 games over 500 should not be fired, especially with two superstars who missed time this year and was a game out of the playoffs. So I can't blame him. But I'm not Sam Presti or Clay Bennett, so I don't make those decisions. What is your immediate reaction to this firing?
I believe that Scott Brooks has been a lame duck coach now for the last couple of years. And I don't think that's necessarily...
He technically was.
No, of course he was. But I don't think that's necessarily his fault.
Yeah, he's not going to for the next year.
Yeah, when we got this news before, my initial reaction was, obviously, so it was something that I expected. But to give Brooks a lot of credit, he did finish 100 games over 500 in his coaching career. And he's the most winningest coach, most winningest active coach, maybe, with that winning percentage who doesn't have an NBA championship. So in that sense, he's a really good coach. And it seemed that for that Thunder locker room, which is a lot more low-key, much more calm, relaxed environment. Obviously, they play in the heartland of America. He was a good personality for that locker room. But I think over the last couple of years, their struggles have been mainly due to injury bug here and there. The reason why they couldn't get to the finals again since they went for the first time, what was it, 2011?
Yes, when they lost the Heat, yes.
So whether it was Ibaka, then it was Westbrook, then it was Westbrook again, and then this year it was Durant. So there was always something, and in the middle, obviously, there was the James Harden trade, and Sam Presti has taken a lot of flack for that.
As he should.
And I was not a big fan, but I've always believed that Scott Brooks has been on the chopping block for a while now. And eventually there comes a time, especially in the NBA, where you have to realize that if a really good coach is not getting it done, you're going to have to try to go out there and find a great coach. Which is why the timing of this move makes no sense to me, because if they were going to make this kind of move, they should have made it a year or two ago, where they had options to go out and grab like a George Karl, who eventually signed with Sacramento and is now their head coach. It's very puzzling to me, because now you fire Scott Brooks, Kevin Durant is coming up in his contract year. This team is so close to completely falling apart. And the seeds were planted in there, obviously, when they first traded James Harden instead of trying to go for it one more time. But now they're going to struggle to find a head coach, because Scott Brooks is probably the best coach out there, and they just fired him.
Unless Tibbs gets
right, but that's you're taking into account maybe somebody else is going to get fired. Maybe they'll try to go after Tibbs if he does get fired by Chicago, because Jerry Reinsdorf is notoriously cheap.
Does not pay, yeah.
So you fire a guy, you don't have an immediate replacement. Your best player, arguably the second or third best player in the entire league now, is going to hit free agency in 2016. And if you don't think he's hitting free agency, you're nuts. You're crazy. You should go drive yourself into a brick wall. Because Kevin Durant is 100% testing free agency. And now all of a sudden teams like the Lakers, the Knicks, his hometown team of the Wizards, all of those teams seem like more attractive options now than Oklahoma City, because they're funneling into an absolute mess.
Yeah, you covered everything I wanted to hit on. So, look, me and you, we've podcasted before ripping apart the Thunder and the dumb moves they made. Obviously, you said the James Harden trade over, $4 million. Clay Bennett wouldn't pay it. Sam Presti trades him, not only trades him to within his conference, but to a rival team. And he gets, I can't even think of a word for it, an atrocious package back. maybe the pick that led to Steven Adams is probably the only bright spot of that, and James Harden now well on his way to either being MVP or second in the MVP, and a great player who's leading the Rockets over the Mavs. So yeah, that was a huge debacle. They picked Serge Ibaka, was the guy they wanted to build. Their three was Westbrook, Durant, and Ibaka. Ibaka since then has turned into this jump shooting or 3-point shooting big instead of the shot blocking, rebounding, defensive presence they needed. And regardless, I'm not sure if him being your third best player was the way to go. But anyway, that was years ago. So yeah, I mean they lost out to the Heat. They're on the cusp of a championship, and the Spurs obviously in their dominance lately overtook them in the West. And now you're at a crossroads where you have Durant a free agent after next season. Westbrook is in 2? Is the year after Durant?
He is the year after Durant. He's 2017.
Right. So Durant is after next full season. Westbrook is the year after Durant, and then now you have your head coach who was there basically throughout their careers is no longer there. And now a couple of interesting things happen where the IBC reports, Bleacher Reports, writing something that Al Izanon, I think that's how you pronounce his name, one of the Knicks writers, says that it's possible they look to get the pick. The Knicks might trade the pick for either Kevin Love or Kevin Durant if he's there. The interesting thing with Kevin Durant,
I want no part of Kevin Love, just for starters.
Yeah, we don't think into that. But I mean, there's just name. But Durant is part of that. I mean, Frank Isola did write a story that he's interested in coming to either here, and Brooklyn's also a possibility. Everyone knows about DC, obviously. His foot injury does make this thing kind of interesting because do you trust his foot is not a second coming of a Yao Ming, of a Bill Walton, etc., whoever else had that type of injury? Yes, he's not the same kind of player. Those guys. He's not a post-up big man. He's a big man. He's a guy who's 6'10", 11, 6'10", whatever he is, 7'8" wingspan. But he's a guard. He's a guard type player in this huge body. So I'm not sure if that benefits him in a way and his foot in a way. I'm also not sure his weight. He's a thin guy, much different weight than a Bill Walton or Yao Ming. Yao Ming's probably 300 pounds over. So you have to see how his foot reacts to that. I can't fathom. I can't wrap my head around Kevin Durant not being Kevin Durant. I'm not sure how many people could. I mean, he's 26, 27 years old. You tell me right now that Kevin Durant will never be the same player again until you're out of your mind because he's a guy that you, I guess, look to take over the reins when LeBron gets up there in age in 4 or 5 years, which is crazy to think about, too, because Durant will then only be 30, 31. Sort of think that he's on his way out or not going to be the same player is just it's crazy, and I don't buy into that. If I'm a Knicks, if I am in the Knicks organization, not a Knicks fan, I am a Knicks fan. I take that trade 10 times out of 10. Every day of the week, twice on Sundays, whatever you want to say, I'm doing that trade. I don't know if any player in this draft is a surefire all-star. I think there are a couple of good players. At this point, the Knicks getting the second best odds now instead of the first, the best odds. If some team offers you a package, you got to take it, and that is Kevin Durant, and because they want to get something for him and to rebuild going forward. And I guess it's the only silver lining for whoever the next head coach is. The silver lining is, okay, if Durant leaves, if Westbrook leaves, we'll stink pretty bad. The Western Conference is really tough, and we'll have a top pick for a couple of years, and then we'll reload, reset, and we'll get back to hopefully, where they were.
They'll end up where Minnesota is right now, if that scenario were to unfold.
Depending if they hit the picks. Now, think about this with the Thunder. We'll start back. The first guy they took back when they were Seattle Supersonics was Kevin Durant. If they had the first pick, they're taking Odin. So they kind of had Durant fall into their lap because he was the next best option. Odin, obviously, everyone knows what happened to him. Kevin Durant's the all-star, the all-pro, the all-world player. The next pick in the draft they had was Harden before Westbrook.
Harden was the year after Westbrook.
So Westbrook was the fourth pick.
Westbrook went fourth overall in 2008, and Harden went third overall in 2009.
Right. So they
got them all in 3 consecutive years.
Those, they picked potentially the best player out of those. Who I'm trying to think who else was in those. That was like the Blake Griffin year. I believe Blake Griffin went one of those years.
Blake Griffin went 1. Hashim Thabit went 2. I think.
Right. Yeah. So
and Harden went 3.
So they had another guy who fell into their lap. Everything, the pieces fell in place for the Thunder. It's hard to say that'll ever happen again in the upcoming drafts if the team does get that bad because of how fortunate they were, your luck, who knows if it stays like that, if it is luck. So that's the weird conundrum they're put in, because do you now sell off your top players and you rebuild, or do you say, no, we're going to get a top flight head coach, a name head coach. I've seen rumors of Kevin Ollie. I've seen if Tom Thibodeau leaves Chicago. I've seen Tyronn Lue.
Tyronn Lue.
No, Tyronn Lue apparently is big time with the players, and he's in the Cavs. He's a Cavs system now, and they like him there. He's a good players coach. I'm forgetting a few other names. You were upset about Billy Donovan, the Billy Donovan rumor, another guy. So if they get a big time coach and say, no, Kevin, no, Russ, we're gonna bring in a big guy for you to coach you, to lead you, get us back to the promised land, maybe things change. I know that Durant did have a pretty good relationship with Scott Brooks, so maybe they're. I'm not sure about Russell Westbrook. I doubt Russell Westbrook did. I don't think Russell Westbrook is the easiest person to get along with. Do I think someone in the organization went to one of them and said, are you okay with this? Maybe they feel that since Russell Westbrook is here for here for an extra year past Durant, and since he's been linked to so many, Durant that is, been linked to so many other teams, maybe they get the sense that Durant is going to leave, but maybe they can convince Russell Westbrook to stay. And they've seen how Russell Westbrook can play without Durant. He was, played the last month and change of the season without KD, and people said, put him in the MVP conversation on a month alone. Of those, how many 40-point nights, 10 games did he have? I mean, it was absurd. Maybe their thought process is, Durant's foot never be the same. Let's keep Russ. He's an MVP alone. We have Ibaka. We have Steven Adams. They made a couple of trades getting guys like Enes Kanter. Their bench is pretty deep. In their heads, if we trade Durant, get a top 5 pick from the Knicks, get a guy, maybe it's Okafor or Towns, maybe it's a guy like D'Angelo Russell, maybe it's a guy like Justice Winslow, who as a wing would be a great fit, I think, because I don't think they would take a guard like Moody or Russell, because that would kind of counter
redundant.
Right, exactly. So I think a guy like Justice Winslow, who could defend, who could shoot the 3, awesome. Obviously one of the big men, probably your best bet to go along with Ibaka at the 5. So do something like that. It does actually make sense, and it's not as crazy when you think about it.
No, absolutely, it's not crazy. I really think that they're going to entertain the idea of shopping Kevin Durant, and I think a team like Washington is going to jump at the.
And they need to.
Well, obviously, their window was starting to open now. 2 quick points. One, 2 weeks ago, or it might have been 3 weeks ago, we said on this very podcast that the Thunder window seems to be closing.
We're pretty good this podcast.
We're pretty good. So I basically said I think that the window closed, and I'm sticking to that, and I think all of these things that are happening proves that. But to get back to the Durant move and then their possibilities for their next head coach, you brought up Billy Donovan before, and Donovan right now, he's been the A-ticket name. He's the prime name that all these teams right now who are looking for head coaches, teams like the Magic, teams like the Denver Nuggets, and now Oklahoma City, they're looking to target Donovan for starters.
That to me is crazy. I mean, I'll let you finish your point, but that's crazy talk to me. Because he won the championship. Yeah, they were a 1 seed last year.
Right.
But they won the championship years back with Noah and Horford and all those guys, Brewer. This is years removed. Why is he the hot name? Why is he the hot name now when you have a guy like Coach Cal, who was 1 game away from being a perfect season, who I know has flirted with the NBA before and has said no, and that's fine. But he's the hot college coach name. I mean, there are other guys. Shaka Smart moved up to Texas. He was great. There are other guys who have been trending upward. Brad Stevens got hired. There were guys who since Donovan had his was top of the food chain. There are other guys who have surpassed him, at least in my mind. So I don't know what the coaches see still in Billy Donovan. To me, the only job that makes sense for Donovan, because it's a close proximity, would be the Orlando Magic job.
Right. And even then, they're going to have to acquire a star elsewhere. Because I don't think they have a star right now on their team, but they have a lot of good players who could be starters on a good team. Alfred Payton could be a starter on a good team. Oladipo's already there. Vucevic is an all-star. Yes. But they're missing that one key player at the top. Right.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Tobias Harris may even leave, may even come to the Knicks. Yeah, but in terms. When you look at Donovan, you look at his job at Florida. When you're the head coach of a major program, and not just a major program, but a major SEC type program, Calipari at Kentucky is the equivalent of saying Nick Saban at Alabama. But Florida right now profiles as one of the 10 biggest schools in the entire country in terms of profile, brand, the amount of students who go there. You know, it is one of the quality jobs. And don't get me wrong, down there, Florida, Florida, Alabama, LSU, all that's football first and foremost. You know, that's their hotbed down there. That's number one. That's what brings in the revenue. That's what everybody pays to see. But when you look at Donovan, what he's done with the Florida program for basketball, basketball terms, he's been to 7 Elite Eights. He's been to 4 Final Fours. He's won 2 national championships. He's played in 3 titles. Could have argued played in the 4th last year had they beaten Connecticut. He's turned Florida not so much not that they're a football program, but their football program has kind of been on the downslope in recent years since Urban Meyer left. So their campus and that university anticipates basketball each year because they're expected to be good. And he's got such a good job down there that it is so hard to see him leaving, especially going to the Thunder. That is a tough sell. They're gonna have people come in and they're gonna have coaches like Alvin Gentry, like Tyronn Lue, like you were alluding to before. They're gonna have these guys come in, and the first thing that ownership, Clay Bennett, general manager Sam Presti, the first thing that they're gonna say is, we might trade Kevin Durant, but we need you to help us, lead us into that transition. The team that you see right now may not be the team that you're coaching 2 years from now. Who in their right mind would want to take that job, unless it's a coach who's just looking to grab a job in the first place? That's what we saw with Brian Shaw, especially in Denver, and now that he's out. It's going to be one of those kind of guys who takes this job. Because I don't think they're... The only kind of coach I think who could come in there and basically save the entire organization and bring everything together is a guy like Pat Riley. And Pat Riley's not leaving Miami anytime soon. I think he likes getting his tan on and his fancy yachts and everything that goes along with being a part of that Heat organization with owner Mickey Harrison.
But I don't think it's as cut and dry as you say. It's not going to be Durant's gone, they're screwed. I think what it will be is if Durant's gone, ownership in the front office is saying to Russ, hey, who do you want to hire? Russ, who do you want to bring in terms of players? So if Russ says, I want Kevin Ollie, I want a big name from UConn, bring him in, he's my guy.
Ooh, Kevin Ollie would be interesting.
You bring him in, and then you say, okay, we're going to move Durant now. Durant is no longer his team. We don't trust him. We don't trust his foot. If he's going to go to Washington, New York, Brooklyn, L.A., wherever he wants to go, before he could do that just in the summer, trade him now. The Knicks have a top 5 pick. Trade him for the pick and whatever. Then you bring in a guy, a top 5 rookie. You have... It's clearly Russ's team now. Kevin Ollie is that it's his guy, and then you build around Russ and co with Ibaka, Adams, Cantor, altogether, like I said, whoever the top 5 pick is. That to me is not as bad as a team as you think. Now, is that going to be an immediate contender? Is the team better without Durant? No, it's not. It's not. You're losing the second best player in the world. Your team is not going to be better. That's obvious. But you also have to think maybe. These superstar laden teams, the super teams that everyone wanted to trend towards, the NBA everyone's so worried about. No one's really doing that anymore because the Spurs they beat the Heat. They showed you that it does not have to be done. You have a 37-year-old Ginobili, 32-year-old Parker, or however old Duncan is, 45, whatever. They showed you it could be done with a team concept, and then they have Kawhi Leonard, who's unbelievable. So they'll lose a couple of their guys. So you can count. The Spurs are going to be struggle to stay at the top because they're going to miss some of their players. Aldridge, we'll see. That it's been rumored that he's going to stay the whole entire season. Now lately they're saying not as definite as it may seem. Okay, so there's another question mark. The Golden State Warriors. They're probably they're going to be here to stay. I think Draymond Green will stay. And they're going to be a tough beat. And if they're the best team, good, so be it. The Clippers, they're a team who's never got past, Chris Paul's never got past the first round of his career. Blake Griffin, there are rumblings that maybe they can move him. He doesn't fit right. We'll see with them. So this whole winded, long, drawn-out thing, what I'm saying is, yeah, their team's not going to be as good as it is with KD. That being said, they could still contend. They could still build a solid team around Russ if Russ is the guy that the ownership is going to and saying, this is your team now, what do you want to do? So I don't think that a coach is going to be scared off from this team because the threat of Durant leaving next summer or the possibility of trading him in it'd be a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
The draft. So that would be incredible. I mean, Twitter would explode if Durant traded the Knicks. I can't even think about that yet. But and I'm saying that's not obviously not a definite. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm 99.9% sure it won't happen. But it is something to think about, and they might not just trust his foot. It could be a health thing too. They simply might be that afraid. They're just saying internally his foot is bad. He's had what is it now, 2 or 3 surgeries on it. He had 2 prior, and then he's had his 3rd one, so 3 surgeries. It's killed careers before. I mean, you can come back and play, but you won't be as effective. So it could be a number of reasons why Durant might not be there. So we'll see. I don't think it's as scary of a job as you think. As long as you have Russ Westbrook on your team, it's going to be good. And their bench is pretty solid, too. So there are options for the Thunder to not be, in the cellar of the West. Should we now move on to the rest of the NBA?
Yeah, I think we've covered Oklahoma City enough.
We've done a good job with them. They've
got we always do.
A lot of airtime.
We're always spot on with them.
I think so. The first round of the playoffs has been it's been exactly predictable. Maybe besides the Toronto-Washington series, I know it was kind of close. I mean, is there anything that's like sparked your interest and made you go, whoa, or what are you shocked by? I mean, to me,
I was talking NBA playoffs with my other friend Joe the other day, and he played for.
You do a podcast with him?
Yeah, he played for Mount St. Mary's, and he's a big time basketball kid. Played for C2. We were talking, and we were saying that. Generally speaking, because Durant's not in the playoffs, because Kobe's not in the playoffs, it feels like the first round has really, really lacked some buzz.
Oh, it's atrocious.
And I would say half the series are just completely dead in the water.
Yeah, they are.
We could go through this one by one. Atlanta, Brooklyn, dead in the water series. Everybody knows Atlanta's going to win.
I don't even care because if Brooklyn even upset them, first of all, do I think Atlanta's going to make any noise? I don't. And secondly, if Brooklyn wins, they're going to get bounced in the second round. So that series to me is useless.
Right. Useless series. Cleveland, Boston. Boston's going to get lucky. Boston's lucky to win a game.
Boston was in the game for a bit, but I think they're my pick to win it all, and they're my pick to make it to the finals. So,
right.
I mean,
I'm with you.
It was like fun to watch. Oh, hey, Boston's in it. They have guys like Jay Crowder on the court and Avery Bradley, and they have Kelly Olynyk. And they're playing against Love and Irving and LeBron, and I'm just like, all right.
Boston is more fun to watch because of the way they're coached with Brad Stevens.
Stevens is awesome.
They're just a very fun, likable team, and obviously they're like the Suns last year. Even though their record isn't as good,
the thing that scares me
they're just very cohesive.
They have a bunch of picks and they have a bunch of players. They don't have a guy. They don't have a go-to guy. There's no young player who I'm excited about for them. That's the only thing.
Yeah, they're a better version of Orlando. They got a lot of guys.
I'm not sure about that.
Well, I think Orlando has a few better top-heavy players.
Much better.
But I think across the board, Boston will have the 4th to 10th best player between those two teams combined. So they're very balanced, and they're filled with a lot of B kind of players.
Yeah,
and they're coached really well, which makes the difference, and especially in the NBA.
Oh, his wins above replacement must be pretty high.
Absurd. They're absolutely ridiculous. The only series that really intrigued me in the first round was probably Chicago and Milwaukee. Milwaukee's gone down 0-2 already. So that's another lame duck series.
That's boring.
Chicago
should beat them. Rose is playing much better. Rose
right.
is playing Rose of old.
Chicago's well coached. They play tenacious defense. Milwaukee, they're a budding, not superpower, but they're a budding all-star caliber team in the waiting.
Oh, yeah, with Parker back, they're going to be great.
Next year they're going to be really good, but they're a year away. And then Washington and Toronto.
That's the only one I thought would be close.
Toronto dropped the first 2 games at home. That's it. They're done.
They are done.
They're done. They're going to lose the series in maybe 5 games.
Even Drake.
Maybe they don't get swept.
Drake in the crowd with his leather Toronto Raptors jacket cannot help them. So,
but that goes to show you if you don't have a star player in the NBA, you're screwed. And I love Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, but neither is really a superstar. They're all-star caliber players. You see. The Wizards have John Wall, who's a superstar. Then they have Brad Beal, who's an all-star kind of player.
Paul Pierce has been amazing.
Paul Pierce is obviously is amazing. Washington to me,
mix of Nene and Gortat is very good too. Yeah.
Washington to me seems like that team that will kind of coast through the regular season. They should be a 55-win team. They're never really a 55-win team, but they're just built for the playoffs. They're built to be good in the playoffs. And I think that if a hypothetical Washington-Atlanta series happens in the second round, I think Washington stands a good chance to upset them.
Oh, so do I.
Because I think that they're tough, they're gritty, they have the best player in the series in John Wall.
Agreed.
That's going another round, but getting back to the lack of buzz, yeah, look at the East. Everybody knew that the East was atrocious, but now that you're seeing actually having it play out in the playoffs, you're like, wow.
No, I totally agree with you with that. The star power does make a difference. It's a guy you rely on, a guy to make a play when you need. I'm not sure who could do that for Atlanta. I mean, Jeff Teague's a great player, not in the same class as John Wall. Horford and Millsap just aren't guys who are going to go above and beyond. And when you have a guy like Paul Pierce has been there, done that, has won championships, and he's getting inside the heads of everyone, it goes a long way.
He's crazy.
I think Washington...
Paul Pierce has become the new, Sean Marion. Sean Marion got a couple of extra years out of the end of his career on Dallas because he was fit to that specific that specific role where he's just like a defensive stopper and you can only count on him to score only here and there, and that's what Paul Pierce right now is. But he still hits big shots. He still hits big three-pointers. He can go up to Randy Whitman and say, listen, for the next 10 minutes, I want to guard him. I want to get his best player.
He's earned that right,
and he's so talented and he's so savvy enough where he could absolutely do that. And that makes all the difference in the world. Now, the East has really dragged down the West. The West hasn't been so bad. But, the only series that has really intrigued me so far has been LA San Antonio, which is still
by far. That's the best series,
by far the best
and
series.
Especially with the Clippers winning the first game. So if the Spurs win the first game, everyone immediately would say, "Oh, the Spurs are going to win this." It's over with.
So now it's
Clippers win the first game. Now you have something to watch, and I totally agree with you. It makes it much more interesting. The West has been better, even in their losses. The Pelicans playing Golden State, seeing Anthony Davis, that guy's incredible.
Anthony Davis is incredible. Is not even the word.
And I'm glad he's on the national spot. Not that he needed it, because I think most people who have seen TV and have seen basketball on or know what the NBA is, kind of know who Anthony Davis is by now. So I don't think he needs the extra exposure. That being said, him on national TV, he deserves it. He's awesome to watch. They were showing a graphic that he's doing I don't know if it was an alley-oop or a putback, and he was 11 feet up in the air, the top of his hand. It was how do you do that?
He's a freak of nature.
I'm still not
once in a generation.
I'm not convinced that I won't have Anthony Davis type growth spurt to compete in the NBA. So we'll be on the lookout for me growing 6 inches or so in the near future. But the West last night was the late game, the Rockets Mavs. That game with Rondo playing only 10 minutes or whatever, and then he left talking to the media. That was something I thought was shocking, especially for a guy who wants to sign a contract. Now he's looking like a rental in Dallas.
I think
he's not getting max deal from anyone. I as a Knicks fan, I used to love Rondo. I love how he played point guard the old-fashioned way. It's fine, the open guy. He doesn't shoot the ball. He can't shoot the ball if he wanted to. That's fine, because I don't think you need to. If you're playing the Knicks, now I don't want to touch him. I don't want anything to do with him.
I think in Rondo's case, I think it's square peg, round hole. I think
Boston. Rick Carlisle's a great coach.
No, he's a great coach.
He do a lot with nothing.
But Doc Rivers is a great coach too, and I think more or less it has to do with team atmosphere.
We're playing Derek Fisher.
What?
What would say if he?
Him playing for Derek Fisher would be.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare. It would be close to a disaster. I still think Rondo could be a very effective player. I think he's at the point of his career where the injury the ACL injury really killed him.
Unfortunately.
I think his days as a top 2 player on a really good contending type team are done. I think he's going to have to take a step back and kind of go to a Jeff Teague.
Well, bottom line just said Mavericks guard Rajon Rondo back out indefinitely.
Right. This is breaking news.
Breaking news on the bottom of the screen.
Breaking news per ESPN, Mark Stein.
I'm not sure if the back is code for something or if he actually was injured. That's the reason why he played like crap. Either way, this could actually help Dallas for him being out of the game. But I still think that series is over, too. Another boring series. But
another very boring series.
Him going into the summer. So now, say this is last night was Rondo's last game, which it very well potentially could be. His value has decreased a whole heck of a lot in the last 24 hours. Winning their game, imagine the Memphis.
That's another snooze fest because Portland's hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
If Portland was healthy, it'd be a really interesting series. But I think
So should we transition now to the NBA, the other playoffs that are the opposite?
The
of
more
NBA
exciting playoffs? Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's not close. It's a bloodbath. We did, I think, a really good job previewing all the NHL matchups. And I've watched parts of every single game. I've watched a lot of full games. Even in some of the ones that were not a 1-goal games, they've still been great games. We'll start with this. What's been your favorite series? I think I know which everyone's in the nation's favorite series have been. Don't say Rangers Pens, but
right,
besides that, what has been your favorite series to watch?
That's a good question. I'm gonna go with the series that I've probably seen the most of so far, and I think that it has been actually the closest. Has been Nashville, Chicago.
Really? Okay.
Even though it's 3-1 Chicago, I think Nashville has had an opportunity to win both games, and
we both picked Chicago, right?
That they lost. Yeah, we both have Chicago coming out of the West. I think we have Blackhawks Rangers in the final, right?
Yeah, we both. Yeah.
Okay, so we have the same final there. I think the other series that I've been really, 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 really intrigued by, that I think has been a pleasant surprise, has been Calgary and Vancouver.
That's the top two. That's one of my two.
And I think
a physical tough series that is, with the surprise team Calgary. Vancouver, you thought with Ryan Miller and they have some of the vets, the Sedin twins. You thought they know what to do.
I think the main difference between Calgary and Vancouver right now is that Vancouver is filled with veterans who are not so much passive, but they're not as fiery as other guys from these other teams. Like when you watch Chicago and you watch guys like Marion Host and Patrick Sharp, and then you watch Vancouver and you see like the Sedin twins, especially in post game interviews, it's night and day. There always seems to be fire in those kind of guys in Chicago versus guys like Vancouver, and then guys like Ryan Miller are the same way.
Well, the difference is they never won.
No, obviously they never won. They
winning goes a long way. I mean, the guy like you just named, Sharp and Taves and Kane, those guys won. Those guys know what it's like to win and to be on the ice and to win. And they've lost they've lost series and games before, and they can come, but they've also won, so they know how to differentiate between the two and act between the two. Vancouver's never reached that pinnacle. They've come very close. They've never reached that pinnacle, so they don't know how to act. So yeah, if you're saying if Henrik Sedin and Dallin Sedin or Alex Burrows or whoever is they're upset after the post game because they got beat by 22-year-old Johnny Gaudreau, and they got people, a few kids and a bunch of guys who've never done it before. Calgary is in their locker room. They're going, oh well, hey, you know what? No one expected us to be here. This is fun. Let's just keep it going.
Right.
They're not thinking a second, a smidgen of what can go wrong, because they're just very happy-go-lucky.
They're playing with house money.
Right, exactly.
They're playing with house money. And I think that mindset is the difference that separates teams like Vancouver and San Jose and Washington, teams that consistently don't get it done. And when you look at Calgary, not only are they filled with young guys like Sean Monahan, who's been an absolute stud his first 2 years.
And their best player has been Hiller this whole series.
Yeah, Sam Bennett. Hiller was a very underrated, shrewd pickup. That move was on Brian Burke, who's been very good for Calgary so far.
Right.
And Calgary's also doing all of this without their best player. Now, you can make a strong argument that if Mark Giordano stayed healthy, he would have won the Norris Trophy, because he was definitely a front runner. But when you look at this team, not only are they doing it without their best player, but they're doing it with a team that is probably all around much younger than Vancouver. And then you look at when you look at the trade deadline, they dealt they're probably their second best kind of team leader in the locker room to Washington and Curtis Glencross. So when you look at not having Giordano, not having Glencross, what Calgary is doing is it makes it even all the more wildly impressive.
Yeah.
It's absolutely absurd. And I think that when we picked the series, I picked Vancouver in 7 because I felt like Calgary was going to hold suit at home because they're just so they were so fiery in their.
So I look even dumber.
Right, I look dumber too, and obviously the series isn't over yet. But it absolutely would not shock me if Vancouver rolled down and lost Game 5 at home. With the way Calgary's playing, and I think it's going that way too.
They have no momentum. That's what it is.
And I think when you watch Calgary, they just play fun hockey. They play
sure.
absolutely fun hockey. But at the same time, they're not as bad defensively as you think, and that goes a long way because they probably play the most up tempo style in the entire playoffs.
I was going to say they're flying up and down the ice. The other series I love to watch, I would put in my top 2, and even though it's 3-0, I still think the Montreal-Ottawa series has been unbelievable.
Well, yeah, Ottawa could have won every game.
Ottawa could have won literally every single game they've played, yet Montreal's up 3-0. So that, to me, has been an incredible series to watch. Dale Weiss scored with the last game they played, was scored like 5 or 6 minutes left, caught the puck, dropped it to his stick, beat the Hamburglar. Then, I'm not sure, was it maybe 9 minutes, maybe into the overtime? The puck went off of Brandon Press's hand, but then it hit Carlson, so it was not a hand pass. And then the puck found, again, Dale Weiss' stick, as they call him, the Dutch Gretzky, and he scored. And I'm lying to you. It was not Hammond, was not in net tonight. It was Craig Anderson and his back, because he said after the post game, he thought his back was lined up with the post, and he was shifted towards more of his left. The puck came on his right-hand side, right behind his right shoulder, and it beat him short side. He had no idea that he did not block off that part of the net, so tough loss for them, but everything has been really close. It started off with a lot of controversy with the whole hitting the slash from PK Subban, hit Mark Stone, and then he ends up having a fractured something in his hand or wrist around that area. Then Subban flipped out in the post game, so people are saying is that a rule that we should have or not? Do you give a player misconduct for that call? Stone actually eventually came back in the game, but he was actually injured, so that was interesting there. Montreal's pulled it out. To me, I mean, I wanted a long, tough series from Ottawa. To just I feel like that Montreal in the end will be very, very close to the Rangers in terms of that's probably the team they're going to match up with. If it's not them, it'll be the Lightning in my mind. But anyway, that series though has been really fun to watch. It's all been 1-goal games, all very exciting. Overtime, you got the whole bit. Both those. Mostly
every series has been close to 1-goal games. There've only been really a few blowouts. The blowouts that I could think of off the top of my head was there was one game in the 5-1 game in the Tampa-Detroit series. Right. I can't even think of another blowout off the top of my head. Everything has been close.
Was there one in Chicago? Chicago, I think, beat Nashville game 2. I think.
No, Nashville beat Chicago game 2, and that was the other blowout. But.
Yeah, I mean, the Winnipeg Anaheim Ducks have been close.
Winnipeg has had third period leads in every game.
Every game, right?
Every game.
And the ticket price, you see that too, but it's cheaper for a Winnipeg Jets fan to go fly to Anaheim, so pay for a ticket in Anaheim, get a plane ticket there and back, stay in a hotel for 2 days, and I think pay for admission for Disneyland, and then go to then go to pay $1,100 for a ticket in Winnipeg. The cost of the whole round trip would be $959 something. 900 US dollars, not the Canadian whatever it is up there. But so $1,100 for tickets in Winnipeg, and for a small town, that place is insane. They were saying the decibel level, that was just the craziest crowd ever, and I just feel bad for them losing that. They're down 3-0 to the Ducks, so I did pick the Ducks. I missed this Winnipeg team being as good as everyone talked about. There was some controversy in that.
I'm pretty sure
Dustin Byfuglien,
on when we broke down every NHL playoff series, I said the team
that
teams were putting too much stock in was the Winnipeg over Anaheim upset, because I thought Anaheim was really good, and they're filled with a lot of guys, the right amount of guys who haven't done it, like Kessler, and obviously Jakob Silfverberg. They're also filled with a lot of guys like Getzlaf and Perry at the top who have gotten there before and have done it. So it's always the right mix. You need guys who've been there before, and you need the right amount of guys behind them who are still hungry. But listen, every series has been close. Mostly every game has been close, and that is what separates the NHL playoffs. Every year, ESPN does a poll: which of the 4 leagues has the best playoffs? And every single year, it always gets over 50% of the vote. The NHL always trumps.
Well,
it's always the NHL. Then it's in some years it's the NFL. In some years it's the NBA. The NBA playoffs get better as it goes along. The first round is like a dud.
The problem with the NBA playoffs in the first round, exactly, is that it's 1 and shouldn't be 7 games. It should only be 5. And secondly, they're too spread out. In the NBA regular season, you have people complaining about the games are just too many back-to-backs. And then the NBA playoffs, it's spread out 2-3 days in between games.
Right.
So they go from one extreme to the other. I don't get why the regular season has a day or two between games. The playoffs should be back to every other day. How the NHL has it. The NHL has the Rangers play every other day. The Islanders play in between that. There's no conflict of TV interest, all that kind of stuff. They figured it out. They don't get enough credit for that. That being said. By far, NHL players are the best. Last night, another thrill last night. The Caps and the Isles in that building. A couple of games left in the Nassau Coliseum. That those fans, everyone's reading about here, definitely locally, probably nationally too. Ripping off chairs, and they're calling the fans barbarians, and they're scaring the crap out of Capitals fans who are complaining and writing letters, and and they're just like these shirtless, like long-haired, gross Long Island dudes are showing up. To this place, and that place was getting really loud. And John Tavares, whose stick broke 4 or 5 times yesterday. I've never seen a guy go through more sticks in my life.
A lot of sticks broke last night.
Yeah, his stick broke. Couldn't defend Backstrom. Backstrom scored in the game that the Islanders won when Tavares won in overtime. Backstrom scored the same exact type of goal where he was sliding up against the boards. And then he somehow spread the D, opened the D, rotated towards the other circle, and he curled around right in like the top circle in the slot area, and just fired not a weak shot, but a shot that this is not coming in at Zdeno Chara, Shea Weber slap shot competition speed, and all the traffic in front, everyone in motion. I kind of got through, and Halak didn't see it, and I beat him over his right shoulder. For them to win that game last night in the overtime. If Tavares had a stick, maybe could have defended it. But Backstrom scored 2 big goals, 2 timely goals for the Caps. This series is another fun one to watch.
We said it was going 7.
I think so too. I think they're both very, very equal teams. And as a Rangers fan, because we're gonna play one of these 2 teams, all I can say is keep playing.
Yeah, absolutely, keep playing.
Just keep playing, keep being a physical team. Have all those guys beat each other up. Clutterbuck and Martin smash whoever they want. Have Ovechkin board everyone on the team. That's what he's doing every game. They don't call it. So let them keep doing that, and it's fine by me. I feel pretty good about if the Rangers win tonight. I guess we can get to that game for a bit before we transition to the other stuff. But Rangers play tonight in Pittsburgh. Not shocked the Rangers lost Game 2. The Rangers are awful in Game 2s. Historically,
the Rangers have not won a Game 2 at home in Madison Square Garden since 1994.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It's
an amazing stat. They're that bad.
I don't get why. I did say this series is going to go 5, so if they won Game 1, lost Game 2, won Game 3, they win tonight. I mean, I expect them to just finish this series out. People get this common misconception. I've heard it, and I was listening to Joe and Evan the other day. The minute the Rangers lose one game, the diehard hockey fans know, and you said this yourself to me, the NHL playoffs you rarely ever see sweeps.
No, you don't. Absolutely not.
And it's a tough grind. I mean, it's the hardest 16 games by far. Everyone knows that. It's a whole new season.
Yeah. When you see a team lose a game, everybody loses their collective minds. And for the Rangers in particular, they lost game.
You're not confident in this and that. Like, come on.
Right, they lost Game 2, and they did so in such a bad way.
They lost by a goal, and they played a pretty bad game. And Lane said this. He said, I thought this was one of the best quotes he's had so far this playoffs. He said they played 6 periods. He said he liked 5 of them. That second period in Game 2 was bad.
Awful.
It was really bad.
They were flat-footed. They didn't skate. They seemed like they were flat because they scored the big goal at the end of the first period by Stepan. And then it just seemed like they got into that mode where it was like, all right, we know we're the better team. They stopped being aggressive. They kind of clamped down, and the Rangers they're so good defensively.
And special teams kill it.
Sometimes
special teams is the worst part.
Special teams is
They gave up 2 power play goals. They had 45 power plays, and they couldn't score one themselves. That's going to kill you. It's going to hurt you. When they play 5-on-5, Rangers look great. The Rangers are I mean, obviously they are the best 5-on-5 team in the nation. I mean, well, more than that.
Two nations.
North America, I should say. You got me there. But with the special teams, you know what? Special teams are going to be... That's key if you want to win a cup. That's what you need. It matters in the playoffs because you're letting teams... If you're not stopping them on your kill, then you're going to give them easy goals like they got. If you're not converting on the chances the refs are giving you, especially when they're giving you what they have, like 7 chances or whatever it was in Game 2. I mean, you have to... 7, you have to... I mean, I don't know what the good percentage is. You want to be in you want to hit 2 to 3 out of 7,
right?
Minimum, because that's going to give you the advantage you're given. So you can't let them convert, and you can't convert. That being said, if that was their worst effort in their worst game, and they only lost by 1. I know Nash got a goal with 5 seconds left. I'll take it. If that's their worst effort you're going to see, and they lost only by a goal. I get that they're missing Mata and they're missing Niskanen. Is it Niskanen?
Well, Niskanen or Pick left.
Or Ehrhoff, Mata, and Letang.
Right.
Letang, obviously. Yes, they're missing the 3 probably arguably best defensemen. They're not the same team as they were last year. I get all that. I get Pittsburgh is not Pittsburgh of old, but if that's the Rangers' worst effort and they lost by a goal, I'm okay with that. I like their odds tonight. I think that them winning last night's game, the last 7-8 minutes or so of just the onslaught of the offense from Pittsburgh, and the Rangers stopped them. They kind of sucked all the life out of Pitt, and they realized, okay, this team is a better class than us in their building. I think tonight, Rangers, they've been scoring the first goal in a lot of these games. I love that, scoring first and they get the momentum and they get on that train and again suck life out of the building. That's very important in the playoffs. Just keep doing that. And I like them. I like them tonight. I like their odds. I like them finishing out the series at home.
Yes, I do too. I think they're going to finish Pittsburgh in 5.
Yeah, I mean that's what I pick. So I think we hit on all that. Want to transition down to the NFL?
Yes, breaking news.
Go talk about
with the breaking news quick.
Go for that.
Greg Hardy has been suspended for 10 games. So Dallas's technically prized free agent signing will be out for more than half of the season. So now Hardy was expected to play a big role, and I don't think anybody expected him to be suspended that many games. I expected somewhere between 4 and 8. I honestly thought he would be suspended 6 games. And then
10 games? Why even sign him at this point? I mean, obviously they didn't know going in.
No, obviously they didn't know. But his contract is incentive-based. It depends on how much he plays and what kind of... there are plateaus, and based on his playing time, he'll get paid based on sacks, based on games played. So in that sense, it's not something that's going to hurt them cap-wise, but obviously it's a disappointment. But now we'll transition. The NFL schedule was released yesterday, and
a little fun segment here. We'll go through the Jets and Giants schedule, keep it local. We'll go through the wins and losses, talk about each game quickly before we end up with baseball and wrap this thing up. So we'll start. Who do you have on the screen right now?
We'll start with the Giants. We'll start with the Big Brothers. Let
me say this before we start this. I looked at the Giants schedule last night. I've been tweeting about this if you follow me.
Oh boy, here we go.
And I think the Giants schedule is very, very, very favorable. It's a very easy schedule.
I agree.
I think it's 100%. Absurdly easy. I mean, they're playing the AFC, the division they get this year, the NFC South, who we all know had a team under 500 make the playoffs last year, in the Carolina Panthers. That division stinks. And the other division they get, the AFC East, obviously the Super Bowl champs, the Patriots are from that division. Giants still always play them very well. The Pats are up and down the regular season last year. You have 3 teams in flux. The Dolphins, the Bills, and the Jets, who, each team has a major flaw. The Bills are still missing a quarterback. The Jets, as of now, still missing a quarterback. The Dolphins, not everyone trusts Tannehill. There's no real threat among those teams. But basically what I'm saying is those three games are winnable. So the divisions they're playing right now, you're looking at 7 out of 8 games maybe being a cakewalk. Not a cakewalk. Obviously, the NFL, everything's a grind. But there's 7 out of those 8 games, I could see them being favored in those games because they're just the team that's. I mean, yes, Buffalo made moves. They got LaShawn McCoy, this and that. The Dolphins made a big splash signing Sue in the offseason. I mean, the NFC South, the Bucs are the first pick. They're not good. The Saints lost Graham. The Falcons are just a terrible team. They had they had an awful year last year. Did have some injuries. The Panthers, again, they made the playoffs. No one really trusts them. I don't think the Panthers are that good of a team. I'm sure you'll probably agree with me most of this kind of stuff. And the Pats, still, the Giants have the Pats number, and it could do damage versus them. So we'll get into each game by game, but the 2 divisions they got, I still think they've locked out big time. So
yeah, relatively weak.
Week by week, let's go with it.
Sunday night at Dallas.
Sunday night in Dallas. They're playing in Jerry World. The Giants do a very, very good job.
Also, Dallas beat the Giants twice last year. So I think it's going to be very hard for Dallas to sweep that series again.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, in my head, just to be fair, I think that the Giants. I'll go with a split. I'm probably going to go with split with every divisional rival, but the Skins.
Right.
I'm going to go with the Giants win this game in Dallas because they play better there at home.
Okay.
I think that Eli's going to come out hot. If Cruz is healthy, it's going to be hard to stop Cruz, Beckham, and Randall. I I like what they did with the Ridley signing. So you have a ton of weapons. Dallas defense last year, everyone thought going in was going to be the worst defense like historically, but they play well thanks to the running game. They did lose to DeMarco Murray. The running back right now, the starting running back for the Dallas Cowboys is Darren McFadden. Let's see if he can make it healthy through training camp, let alone the preseason, let alone the regular season. So I think it'll be a very high-scoring game. Like it'll be like the upper 30s, low 40s. I'm going to go with even the Giants. The Giants did play the Cowboys pretty well last year. That was the whole famous Beckham catch game. One of them, the later one. So I'll go with the Giants in this game. I still think they'll split, just to be fair, because if I didn't, the Giants would be going 16-0.
Home opener, Atlanta, next week, September 20th.
That's an easy win. I mean,
I think
home
it's
opener.
an easy
I mean,
win,
I think
too.
Atlanta's trash. So right now, the Giants are 2-0.
Right. Washington at home. That coming back, it's a quick Thursday night game.
Washington is that team is so screwed up. They still don't know what they're doing in quarterback. I mean, there's so many question marks here. I gotta say they're gonna win this game.
All right, so right now
They're
we're
off to a
3
hot
now.
start.
Right now. Now they're at Buffalo Sunday, October 4th. This is the first game I think that
This is the first. I mean, they could very well easily lose to the Cowboys week 1. I think
Right.
I'm saying they're going to split. So they'll lose to the Cowboys later in the year. This game or next game, whatever. They'll lose to the Cowboys once. They'll lose to the Eagles once. Just because it's fair to say that they'll split. The Giants always play the Eagles like crap, even though the Eagles aren't as good as they used to be in my mind. But they'll find a way to screw it up because that's what the Giants do. The Bills game, they're going to be. I feel like right now I can say they beat the Bills. If I watch the season starts and the first couple against the Bills and Castle works out and Rex has this crazy defense and McCoy is shady McCoy, then it becomes a tough game. But there are other ways to look at this. They do have a great defense too, no matter if they had Rex there or not. But I'm not completely sold on this team being a real contender yet. As long as you have a quarterback that's Matt Castle and not Tom Brady, you're not going to win the division. That's just what it comes down to.
I think those close games are going to come down to
in
quarterbacks.
Buffalo.
Yeah, I could very easily see the Giants losing, but I think the Giants this year are going to play with a chip on their shoulder because they haven't made the playoffs since they won the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So I think ultimately, when I'm looking at games like this, I'll look at Eli versus Castle, and it's obviously this may very easily be a game where Eli has he has like 2 or 3 brain farts a year where he throws like 2 or 3 interceptions, and you're like, ah. But
it's in Buffalo.
I think
you know what I was going to say the Giants are going to win this game, and now for some reason I think they're going to lose it. I feel like McCoy and Rex are going to beat the Giants, and they're in Buffalo going to lose.
All right, so 3-1. Next, San Francisco.
I think San Francisco
Sunday night.
They're on a downward trend.
Yes, absolutely. I would not be shocked if San Francisco finished 4-12 this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the thing's going to get really rough. I'm going to go with the Giants in this game.
So we're 4-1 at Philadelphia Monday night.
They're going to lose that game.
The Giants play twice on Monday night this year, so
they deserve prime time. They're
the best team in the division. Yeah, right. Sunday, second game against Dallas. They closed out Dallas very early this year.
Wait a second. Wait, what date is that? October 25th, they're done playing Dallas?
Yes.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
I don't like that at all. They're going to lose that game. So the Giants are going to be they're in a rough patch right now.
So we're going to go back into a rough patch now at New Orleans.
They're going to crush New Orleans.
Okay, so this is where the train starts going again.
That team's garbage now. They're in a rough spot. Their defense is bad. They have no Jimmy Graham. I mean, without Jimmy Graham, their team makes it much easier to cover. I know Drew Brees is still pissed off about that. I like that matchup for the Giants. So yeah, I'm going to go with that.
So we're 5-3 at the midway point.
Another win.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it's a win.
That's a win. Okay. All right. Right now we're 6-3. This is the game you want to mark down your schedule.
6-3. You want to
Sunday, November 15th, prime time at 4:00 on CBS. Patriots and the Giants.
That's a good game.
The Giants own the Patriots.
They do, but I feel like they'll screw this game up. So I'm going to say loss.
Okay. All right. So we're at 6-4. Giants got a late bye week. The Jets had a late bye week this year. So they're going to win the bye week. Week 12.
They're sweeping the Skins.
They're sweeping the Skins. So Sunday, November 29th, we have that as a win. So right now we're at 7-4. The Snoopy Bowl. Sunday, December 6th against the Jets.
This game is going to be contingent on who plays quarterback for the Jets. If the Jets have a guy who's not on the roster right now, who's not rostered, if it's not Fitzpatrick, it's not Geno, it's not whoever else they have left. If they make a trade for whoever, if they draft somebody, I think the Jets can get them a run for their money because of they have a great offensive ability with the 2 receivers they have now with Decker and Brandon Marshall. I think that their running game will always be strong. Great defense. Obviously, their quarterbacks can blanket their receivers. They're the one team that could literally that could stop all the Giants receivers who might have the best core in the league. and that's not being biased. That's being factual.
Right.
That being said, if they can't score points, the Giants will find a way to score points. So that'll be a close game. I think a Giants win, depending on who's quarterback for the Jets. If the Jets have a different quarterback and they have somebody who's playing really well and could, I guess, not prohibit them from scoring, then we'll revisit that game, midway through we'll revisit that at the bye. We'll come back to me in this podcast and say, Eddie, you said months ago that's going to happen. Now I'll say this. But, yeah, right now I'm going to go a Giants close win. The Jets keep that game because of Revis and Cromartie and company.
Okay, so now we're 8-4. At Miami, Monday night, second Monday night game of the year.
It's a tough game at Miami. I think I like the Giants in primetime games for some reason, so I'm gonna go with.
It's tough. It's tough. I know if I
they'll screw it up. They'll screw that game up.
Yeah, it feels like a game that they're gonna screw up late in the game. All right, so we're gonna mark them down for a loss, 8-5. We'll out of throw off the games quick because I have a sense of what you're going to pick for these. Sunday, December 27th, Carolina at home. Sunday, December 27th in Minnesota. Sunday, January 3rd against Philadelphia. I feel like the Philadelphia game is going to be the game that determines if they make the playoffs or not. I think that at that point they're going to be either a 9-win team or a 10-win team. They're going to probably be fighting for the division.
They'll put it this way. Between Miami, Carolina, and Minnesota, they'll screw up one of those three games. So technically, I think they should be favored and win all three of those. By that point, they will screw one of those up. I don't trust Bridgewater quarterback. They're not going to have Peterson. Peterson won't be in purple. Carolina, yeah, they made the playoffs this year. Carolina is just, Cam could be an MVP candidate with Kelvin Benjamin, and they can make me look stupid. Or Carolina could be atrocious. It's one of those two. Miami is just going to be extremely mediocre. Right. They're going to be extremely average. And the Giants make enough mistakes, they'll be average enough to win. If the Giants make 0 mistakes and Beckham has 3 touchdowns, the Giants smoke them. It's one of those games. It's going to go either way. They will screw up one of those 3 games.
Right.
And I said they're going to split with Philadelphia. The Giants are home versus Philly. We
had them as a loss for the first time around, so they're going to win.
They're going to lose in Philly. They'll win here. You know me from the earlier podcast when the whole trades happened. I'm not really into Philly. I don't think Philly's going to be that good. I think losing McCoy does not help. Losing Macklin does not help. I still think Foles is a better quarterback than Bradford. Bradford not being healthy. I know some people who are coming out of the woodwork now saying, "Oh, Bradford can be an elite quarterback." Okay, yeah, get lost. Go pound sand.
Get lost. All right.
But I'm not into them. I think that the Giants they'll win the last game. Wait, so what I have the Giants now?
So if you can
tweet this out. The Giants,
right.
11-5.
If you can do simple math and you follow that last 10 minutes, the Giants will finish 11-5 and they will win the NFC East. And they will most likely be either I don't know, maybe 11-5 is good enough to get them a first round bye. Because the NFC it's very tightly packed, always tightly packed. So you figure you'll have Green Bay, you'll have Seattle in the fall. I think you're going to have St. Louis in the fall. I think St. Louis is the team that takes off this year. I think they're finally ready to take off, and falls infinitely right now an upgrade over Bradford. They have 2 first-round picks. They'll get a receiver in the draft, so they're ready to take off. I think those 4 teams are going to be the best 4 teams in the NFC. That's just my gut feeling. I'm very high on the Giants like you are this year. So we broke down the big brother. Now we got to break down the little brother. That's my job.
I think we're both on the same page here.
Yeah. We're starting Sunday, September 13th against Cleveland. I think that's a win.
I mean, it's up in the air between it's Manziel or is it McCown?
I'm under the assumption right now that Geno will start week 1. I think they're going to take a pass rusher in the draft. That's my gut feeling.
Nope.
As much as I really am not sold on that idea, I think they're going to give Geno 1 more year. I think Woody likes the potential in Geno. I think Bowles will try to see what he has to work with.
Geno Smith's mom doesn't like the potential in Geno Smith.
Yeah, I know.
It's Patrick's team if the quarterback's roster stays the way it is.
I'm really, I'm very on their quarterback situation, but everything else is there for a potential playoff team. So
if they had a league average or above quarterback, they're a Super Bowl contender.
Oh boy.
But look at it. Look at the roster. Really, you have 2 awesome receivers. That's all you need. You have Brandon Marshall, who's potentially one of the best 100-ball receiver. Decker, that's like 13 touchdowns with Manning. You have a defense that's every level. You have a stud defensive line. You have the best cornerback group by far.
Right.
And then you have linebackers who are good enough. So if you draft a linebacker, a linebacker, the 6th pick, then you have a really good team.
Right.
Todd Bowles, from all accounts, is a phenomenal coach. People say one of the smartest guys around in football. That's Super Bowl contender to me. So,
right.
Whatever.
All right. So assuming Gino/Fitzpatrick is the quarterback of this team.
You know what? We should have probably done the scheduling a couple of days after the draft because it would have been a little bit easier. But
right.
But that being, it's more fun to do it now. So we'll
okay.
See.
I'm gonna go with my schedule picks based on the assumption that Gino's the quarterback because I think Gino.
What's the win-loss differential between Smith and Fitzpatrick?
Probably 1 or 2 games max.
So why would they pick a guy?
I would say Fitzpatrick right now. His ceiling is 8-8. And I think that
you think so. Is it 8-8 higher than?
I think Gino's ceiling is higher.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So
not by a lot, but at this point, I think his ceiling is slightly higher.
No, see, I think Fitzpatrick will limit mistakes, and limiting mistakes means more opportunities to win the games for the Jets.
Right.
That's why I go. So I think Fitzpatrick will be a better choice.
Okay. We got Cleveland as a win.
Regardless of who they play next week,
right.
Week 2, it does not matter.
Monday, September 21st at the Colts. That's a loss. Big loss. Sunday, September 27th against the Eagles. Interesting game. Because they haven't beat the Eagles in more than a few seasons.
Mariota could be on one of these two teams.
He very, very, very well could be. If we have Mariota, then I'm really confident because I'm a big fan of Mariota.
Mariota takes things that makes the whole heck of a lot of difference. But yeah,
I'm gonna say win. I'm gonna say they're gonna get into it early. It'll be. Philly will probably be slightly favored, but I think
they'll be. With Murray, if they shut down Murray, they have a real chance to win this game.
Right. I think they absolutely can. And I think this is going to be one of those games where Bradford is exposed because Bradford has not so great arm strength. So I think in that case it works in the Jets' favors because of their cornerback. So I'll say win. Sunday, October 4th at Miami.
They'll win that game.
Jets
South.
Yeah, ESPN has it as a 9:30 a.m. start on CBS, which is the London game.
London game, yeah.
Which is ridiculous because I don't feel like getting up that freaking early. But
come on, you're waking up and you're gonna wake at 9:30, watch football, right?
Right.
1 o'clock in the afternoon, watch football, right? 4 o'clock in the afternoon, watch football, right? 8:30, 9 o'clock, you watch football tonight. 4 games in a row. You have football from breakfast.
All right. You make a good point.
Am I right?
You make a good point. You make a good point. You're right. You're right. All right. I got that as a loss. So we'll go into an early bye week.
I'm going win. So I'm 2-2.
So we're both at 2-2, but we're switching both games.
Win the bye. Gotta win the bye.
Gotta always win the bye. Sunday, October 18th at home against the Skins. Easy win.
Awful.
Easy win.
They're gonna be running for the first pick.
Easy win. So we're 3-2. Sunday, October 25th at New England. I say it's a loss. Yeah. But I think they're
gonna split.
They always split with New England.
Yeah.
Very good like that. Sunday, November 1st at Oakland.
This is a surprise team.
Right. This is the game that determines if the Jets are real or not. Because Oakland always plays the Jets tough. The last time the Jets played in Oakland in a game that they should have won, they lost. They let McFadden run for 200 and something yards, and I'm very odd like that. I'm like Gene in the sense where I can remember like odd statistical anomalies and kind of games like that. But I think the Jets are for real. I think they're a legitimate playoff contender. I wouldn't say division contender, but I think that they're definitely going to be in the wild card hunt by week 16, 17. So I will say that they beat Oakland on the road Sunday, November 1st, and at that point we are now 4-3.
To me, this game is up to how Derek Carr starts the season. If he starts the season off really, really hot, watch out for Oakland. If they draft Amari Cooper, watch out. If they go a different route because it's Oakland, they're prone to doing that kind of stuff. Then I'll say it's at Oakland.
It's at Oakland. It's a tough game. This is the game that determines if they're for real or not because this is...
I'll give them a win.
Right. If you're a playoff team, playoff teams win games like this during the course of the season. So right now we're at 4-3. Sunday, November 8th against Jacksonville. I think it's a win.
You have to.
Right, because of Bortles.
Classic trap game.
Now we're at 5-3 right now. Thursday, November 12th, coming on the short week, but we're at home against Buffalo.
You're gonna get swept by Buffalo this year.
Oh boy. Because the sexy Rexy factor.
It's a curse. They're gonna get swept by Buffalo this year.
The sexy Rexy factor. I think they'll split with Buffalo, and I think they'll win the first game. So right now, I have them at 6-3, which is shocking because I don't think they're gonna be 6-3.
And I have them at 5-4.
I don't think they're gonna be 6-3 at this point. All right, at Houston, Sunday, November 22nd. I think this is a game they'll lose.
Who's Houston's quarterback?
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I
think on paper the Jets are the better team, but they lose games.
They
like
win.
this.
To me, 6-4. So no, you're 6-4 too.
Right.
All right. So both at 6-4.
Because I feel like they're going to win a game or lose a game that I had them winning before that. So maybe it's the Oakland game. I don't know. So on Sunday, November 29th, we're at home against Miami. They notoriously struggle against Miami.
Right.
And right now, I have them losing at Miami. So
they'll lose to Miami.
I'm going to go on a limb, and I'm going to say Miami sweeps them this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
I don't like
Miami because of
I don't like
Tannehill or
yes,
Stu,
because of Tannehill.
Okay.
I think Tannehill right now, if the Jets had Tannehill, they would be instant Super Bowl contenders. They'd be contender for 11 to 12 win team.
I said above league average. I think to me Tannehill's very league average. Above league average.
I would take Tannehill over guys like Dalton. I think Tannehill has a lot of potential, and I think
like those are like the two most average guys you could find. I'm talking like a smidge above league average.
I think Dalton is essentially where you would like to be.
I'm talking like Phillip Rivers.
Like,
Phillip Rivers. That's like a
Phillip Rivers is very good.
He's above league average.
I wish the Jets would go out and get Phillip Rivers.
It's possible. It's
very possible. If you bring in Phillip Rivers to the Jets right now, they may challenge 12 wins.
Oh, absolutely. It's a way different team. Anyway, so I'm going to say
we're at 6 and 5.
I'm saying yes, I agree. They're going to lose this game.
So we're at 6 and 5 each.
Sure.
At the Giants, we both agreed with this.
I think Giants are going to win this game. So
I think the Giants are going to win. There will be a 500. This is where I think their schedule kind of takes a turn. Right now, Sunday, December 13th against Tennessee. Tennessee is going to be Tennessee is going to be a mess. Whether they're if they get, I think it's going to be a colossal mistake if they trade for Rivers because I don't think they're ready to. I think Rivers is only going to get dealt if it's to a contender where he can possibly win immediately. So you take, like, St. Louis traded for Foles. You take a team like St. Louis off the list. The only teams that I think would trade for Rivers would be, like, the Jets, maybe the Cardinals.
That would be crazy.
I think that would not, like...
Well, because is Carson going to miss part of the season?
He's going to miss part of the season. And I think they're in the running right now to trade for Peterson, but I think they should be looking more to Rivers than anything else.
Running back is useless in the NFL.
So right now I'm at 7 and 6. At Dallas.
That's a really tough game.
It's a tough game. I think Dallas, more so, they're very prone at home. They're not a great home team. Last year they were 8-0 on the road. Last year they were 4-4 at home. They're notorious for losing to teams that they're not supposed to lose to at home.
Right.
Last year they lost the Monday night game to Washington. Last year there was another game, another like odd home game that they lost like late in the season.
You know,
I don't remember it off the top of my head.
It's going to be one of those games where the defense holds on like as much as they could, and the Jets just don't score enough points against a team they probably should.
Right.
Like, you'll know, like Tony will find ways to score points. They'll have like 21, 20, like 24 points, and the Jets won't be able to score just enough because of Ryan Fitzpatrick or Geno Smith.
All right, I know what I'm going to go with. This is my upset pick for the season. I have the Jets going into Dallas and beating them.
Yeah, they're going to lose for me.
That is, listen, you have to go out on a limb, and right now, my two iffy games that might keep them out of the playoffs are Oakland and Dallas on the road. If they win both of those games, they stand a good chance of making the playoffs.
So what do you have them at?
So I have them at 8 and 6,
and then I'm one less than you.
Yeah,
I'm
so
7
you're 7 and 7. New England, we both agree that they'll split with New England.
New England.
So
I'm gonna win this one. Yeah.
Right. So I'm at 8. I'm at 9 and 6. You're at 8 and 7.
Right.
I think they're going to split with Buffalo. So at Buffalo, 9 and 6. Most likely they'll be in a playoff spot. Season on the line. I think the Jets disappoint. I think Sexy Rexy gets the last laugh and keeps them out of the playoffs.
So you have them at 9 and 7.
I have a 9 and 7, and I have them not in the postseason.
I have it 8 and 8. They're in the hunt down.
Because right now I would have them losing to Indy, Miami twice. That's 3. New England, Buffalo. It's already 5 losses in conference. I have them losing to Houston. So that's 6 conference losses, and considering that I have them as a 9-win team.
And what does this show you about this going through the schedule? Jets. I mean,
they're a quarterback away from being a really interesting.
They're very, very solid.
Which is why I think if Mariota falls, I think he's the pick.
Running backs. It doesn't really matter in this league. Ivory can do his job. Ivory's awesome last year. Runs hard. Cornerback, like I said, great. Defensive line, great. Linebacker, if they draft according to Joe, they're going to have a pass rusher. Everything about this team, other than the guy behind center is just it's a phenomenal team. But they're missing a guy. Fitzpatrick and Geno Smith will not take them to the next level. Will they get Rivers? Will they get Mariota? Will they get Winston? Who knows? That's what the draft's going to be very interesting to see.
Winston would be the best case scenario. I would do cartwheels on freaking Highland Boulevard if the Jets got Winston.
No, I think so. I think he has a very high future. I know this one's kind of long. I know you're going to the Mets game soon.
Yes, I'm going to the Mets game soon.
You're seeing the Mets live. So what are your thoughts about this recent hot streak?
I don't think it's a fluke. I think they'll come back down to earth a little bit. We see teams kind of get hot at the beginning of the season, like the Brewers did last year, and then kind of come back down to earth. But I think the difference between that team last year and a team like the Mets this year is the Mets, they're for real because they can pitch. And they lost Zach Wheeler for the season, and they can still pitch. Harvey is good. DeGrom is way better than anybody has ever given him credit for. So tonight is Dylan G. Tomorrow, I don't know who's starting tomorrow. I was supposed to go to the game on Saturday, too, which was a Harvey day. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work out. But I think the Mets are for real. I think the Kadire signing was very underrated. Granderson's starting to come around. So
first RBI in a leadoff spot for either New York team.
Yeah,
how about that?
Amazing. That's a great stat. Great stat. And to just quickly touch on the Yankees, at the beginning, about a month ago, we analyzed both teams. I said that the Mets would probably be somewhere between like an 85, 88 win team. I'm still holding by that. I think they'll be good. The Yankees will struggle to be 500, and I think you're seeing it early. I think there's a little more buzz around the Mets, and they are obviously the best team in baseball. They it seems like they believe in themselves a little bit more, and they've been able to take care of business early, especially within the division, which is really, really going to help. Right. They swept the Phillies and the Marlins at home, and right now they're looking to win the series against the Braves. So if you let those division wins pile up, those will make a difference down the stretch. And now that Washington's hurting a little bit, the Mets fans have a lot to be happy about. And in terms of the Yankees, thank God that they didn't dig themselves into a hole. That sweep against the Rays was
quietly won 4 or 5.
Quietly won 4 or 5. Really, really helped. If they take 2 or 3 from Detroit tonight, that'll be good too, because Detroit has been off to a really nice start too. So the Yankees may not be dead yet. But hopefully they can just continue to tread 500, and maybe they'll take off sometime in June and July. That is what I'm hoping for. But yeah, I'm excited to see the Mets tonight.
Well, good. I look forward to your scouting report on them. Quickly before we end this, I guess we should tease. We're going to do our NFL mock draft. The draft coming up. When does it start? The 1st, May 1st, is it?
No, it starts next Thursday, April 30th. And then it goes
30th.
until Saturday, May 2nd, which is like, it's like, you know the day that Jesus rose from the grave?
I do.
That's how that Saturday is going to be. It's going to be
just like Jesus. Yeah.
It's going to be the most phenomenal day of the entire year. The Yankees play, the Mets play, obviously Saturday games. We're going to have Stanley Cup playoffs. Hopefully the Rangers are playing that day. We're going to have the NBA playoffs. We're going to have Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather later in the day. We're going to have the Kentucky Derby smack dab in the middle of dinner time. It's going to be off the chart. I can't wait. I'm so pumped. And then, obviously, the NFL draft, which is why I brought up the day up in the first place. Even though it's the later rounds, it's still the NFL draft.
Yeah. Well, I can't say any better than that. So, yeah, we will have our next podcast. I guess we'll just do a strictly NFL mock draft. For that. So we'll do.
We're going to do our research,
depending on time constraints. We may do 2 podcasts, a quick one on other sports and one just strictly on the mock draft. That being said, there definitely will be a NFL mock draft thing where me and Joe will both have we'll research it, and we'll go back and forth between picks, and we'll play this out as it would. You guys will see in a couple days from then. So next podcast you'll hear strictly NFL mock draft. Depending on time, we might do another one if something crazy happens around. Obviously, the NHL and NBA players continue, and the Mets and Yankee season continues to roll on. So we will see you then next week when we get together for that podcast. Listen to that. That'll be a fun one. The first different kind of podcast that we'll have. I think today we did a pretty damn good job.
I think it was a great job, too. We had a lot to talk about.
Yes, we did. Looking forward to the Rangers till later. I know you're going to be watching the Rangers on your phone at the Mets game. The weather kind of cleared up. Doesn't look as wet now. The sun was kind of shining through before. So I guess we'll see you next week. Any last words?
No. I can't wait for next week, though. NFL draft is always the best time. One of the best times of the year.
Times too. That's why we're going to do that for you. So we'll give you some good stuff. And before we sign off, I just want to say let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers. Until then, I'm Joe.
And I'm Eddie. See you then.